Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mandy Grace. If you've been watching my videos in May, you might have started to notice that every single one of them I am in this outfit and standing in front of this lovely shelf with this candle burning because they're all filmed at the same time. Yes. Every month this year, I've been trying to read a different writing craft book to get better at writing and marketing and all the things that have to do with being an author. But my May book of choice is Creating Characters, How to Build Story People by Dwight V. Swain. So this should be interesting. So far, I've only read the preface, but I thought it was interesting to note that he explains briefly, I guess, how this is going to work, which he calls barn brush strokes, which I think is just, it's going to be very broad and simple, and then I will, do better from there. I don't know. But the part that I found interesting was he described how to use the book. So how should you use this book? A good way to start, it seems to me, is a quick scan. That will give you an idea of your present skill and where you're strong and weak. Then you can decide for yourself what's old and what's new to you, that is, and where you need to dig in and bear down. I do not suggest that you work by the numbers, as it were. That's a sure way to make writing a drudgery, and writing's hard enough without that. Rather, fly by the seat of your pants, setting down characters as they surface in the story, and then go back and troubleshoot the product, reworking to improve any of your people whom you feel might benefit. So I think this is actually a good book to be reading right now, as I'm in the midst of writing book 2 of the fantasy story, because I already know my characters from book 1. There's a few new ones in book 2, but there's not going to be a lot of added characters. Well, I don't think there's going to be. We'll see. But anyway, so I feel like I guess I feel kind of like I already have my barn strokes, but I'm currently creating characters, so it feels like a book to be reading. I don't know. That thought didn't really make any sense once it came out of my head, but when I was reading the preface, it made sense. Anyway, we're gonna read this book. Today's also a writing day, so I'm going to be writing as well. And characters. As we go, we will be doing something with the characters of my fantasy story. I don't know what. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna stop talking to the camera because it did not make any sense once I actually started talking. So, 3 pages in. I said I wasn't going to talk to the camera, but here I am. He's talking about what makes characters, and that's the ability to care, and I've agreed with everything he said. But I turned on the camera again to say that this isn't how I write. When assigning a caring element to a character, you commit him to a stance which, implicitly or explicitly, consciously or unconsciously, he automatically will live by. Knowing this is character's dominant dynamic, you write with more confidence and more assurance. You'll find few tools more valuable. You fit this to your needs, of course. Choose what character is to find important in keeping with the story you plan. Then you figure out, rationalize is the dictionary term for it, why character feels the way that he does. When the time at last comes to write the story, plunge him into a pre-planned situation that challenges the part of him that cares, threatens the thing he feels is most important. Basically, that's not how I write. I do outline. I really enjoy outlining, but I can't outline until I already know, like, who the person is. And it's not that I create this is gonna sound really bizarre, but it's not, I don't go about being like, this is who this person is, and this is, you know, their motivation, this is what they want, this is how they're not gonna get it. Okay, let me plan a story. It's more like, they come to me and they're like, this is who I am, this is the story, write me. And I do. And then, you know, it changes as it goes, but I plot out what seems to be the obvious course of action here. But then as I write the story, the characters come to life on their own, and I find their motivation or what they care about while writing. And that's when I figure out what's really going on, and I adjust my plot that I already outlined. So yeah, the initial plotting, while I enjoy it and find it fun, it's not really what gets me to the end of the story, because once I start writing, like the first 5 or 6 chapters, the characters will tell me who they are, and then I rework the whole story. So the idea of like knowing exactly who your character is before you even write the story, like I sometimes think that I know, but once things start going, I really don't. And with this fantasy story that I'm writing, I thought I knew exactly what the dynamics of the 4 girls were going to be, my princess and her 3 ladies in waiting and their amazing friendship. I knew, I thought, what all 4 of them were going to be like and how they would work together, like how their different opinions and values would mix. Like I knew the friendship dynamic and I was so excited. And then I started writing it and several of them were like, nope, it's not who I am. Similar, but not quite right. And they adjusted for me who they were, and I loved where it was going, and I was like, okay, fine, that's who you can be. And I reworked what I was doing with Messiah's story. So anyway, this is going to be interesting. I haven't disagreed with anything he said about giving them a caring element and all of that, but I did find it interesting that, like most people who plot stories, he was like, you are in charge, you create this character. I'm like, I mean, that's technically true, but like, it's not. It's all in my subconscious, I feel, because once I start writing, the characters just do things, and then I'm like, oh, no, that does make much more sense than what I was going to tell you to do. So, yes, that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm going to go back to reading. Okay, I love this part. He's discussing how writers, when creating characters and writing about them, essentially have to become that person to bring them to life. And I just love this part. Or if you want to put it in the bluntest possible terms, he must become a hypocrite, a person who pretends to personal qualities or principles not actually possessed. I am 8 chapters into this book, and it is interesting. I don't know why the dogs are all barking outside. It's hard to describe, and this is very much a subjective thing. I'm sure plenty of people read this book and don't necessarily feel this way, but it's excessively conversational, which is not in itself bad, but it's also like very fast-paced conversational. So every other sentence I feel like we've jumped to a completely new topic and it's just go, go, go. And it's so informal. And honestly, my brain just can't keep up with what this man is saying. I have had to reread every single page multiple times because I have no idea what he's trying to get across. And I'm like, what did you just say? What just happened? I don't know what it is about my brain and why it's reacting this way to the way that he writes. But it's been difficult for me to comprehend, which I personally find bizarre because it's super informal language. And I'm just like, what did you say? Can you try and say that in a much more straightforward, formal way? Because then I might know what you're saying, but I just can't keep up. But once I, reread the page a few times, I am enjoying and agreeing with all the things he's talked about. How to make story people so you make them care about something, and then assigning broad labels and then narrowing down on like the specific things and everything, and all of it is stuff that I try to do with my characters. 8 chapters in, I haven't found anything where I've been like, oh my goodness, I should do this, I should try this thing. Like, nothing's been jumping at me in that fashion, but it's all been good stuff. It's just been really difficult for me to get it. Something about the way that he writes, my brain just does not compute at all. So it's been very difficult to slough through because I just, I have to reread every page so many times just to understand what on earth this man is saying, which doesn't make me want to read more. I'm very interested to see if I learn something, because so far it's just been like, oh, yep, that's how you create a character. Except it's not been, oh, yep, it's been, what are you saying? Oh, I see, yep, okay. But anyway, I'm interested to see in the last half of the book if I learn something new and I'm able to better create story people for my own stories, which was the point. The idea behind me doing a writing craft book every single month this year was to learn. I'm not entirely sure that's happened. Story Genius I haven't done properly yet. I really like the prompts leading up to the story cards, but I haven't actually done the Story Genius method all the way through yet because it was not the way that I wrote, and so it was making me uncomfortable. So anyway, I really enjoy the prompts though, and I've been using them with every story since then. So Story Genius, like, I learned another brainstorming method, I guess, but not necessarily anything story-wise. Also, I don't know if my prior ways of brainstorming and outlining wouldn't have gotten me to the exact same story that the Story Genius brainstorming did. I don't know. Anyway, I do the Story Genius brainstorming. The story structure book was painful on so many levels, but yeah, I don't really feel like I learned a whole lot. The Take Off Your Pants one, I loved that outlining method. Loved it. Now that I'm actually writing the book that I outlined with it, it's harder, not gonna lie, because with the story, with the what now? What do I use? With the Save the Cat outlines a novel, it outlines it chronologically. These are the things that happens, and then these are the things. And with the Take Off Your Pants, it's more like these are the emotional beats that you have to hit at some point in your story. And now that I'm actually writing it, hello, the washer just turned on. Now that I'm actually writing it, it's difficult because it's not specific it's not plot points that are happening. So I keep staring at it. Every time I finish a scene, I stare at the Take Off Your Pants thing, and I'm like, well, this is all interesting information. I can't glean any scenes from any of this. This is so unhelpful. So yes, I absolutely loved the Take Off Your Pants when I was doing the outlines. I was like, this is the best thing that has ever happened to me. I don't know that I actually said that in the video. You can go watch it. I'm sure that I've been putting all of the writing craft book vlogs in the cards as I've been discussing them just now. But anyway, I loved to Take Off Your Pants, and then I didn't. I mean, I don't hate it, but it's not been very helpful as I've been trying to write the book that I'm writing. But anyway, the point is, all of that ranting was just to say that my initial goal in doing a book every month on writing craft or marketing or whatever was to learn and get better. And thus far, I don't necessarily feel that I have. Because with the other books, I mean, the Take Off Your Pants outlining was amazing, but then once I started writing it, less so. And the Story Genius prompts, brainstorming prompts, were great as well. What? Anyhow, the Story Genius prompts are definitely a helpful thing that I use with every story, and while I did love the Take Off Your Pants prior to writing my novel, I'm not sure that it's actually that helpful for me now that I'm writing the novel. So yes, I don't know that I've actually learned as much as I was hoping to learn with doing one of these every month. And so far with this, it's been hard to read. And also I haven't come across anything yet that I'm like, oh, that's how I create story people. I'm just like, yes. That is how you do that. I probably would have said it in a different manner so that I could understand what on earth was happening. But yes.
Maybe it's here. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Final thoughts. I do think I did learn things from reading this book. It's hard to pinpoint. Like, I can't tell you specifically something that I learned, but I do feel like I understand creating characters better now on some level. I think I gleaned knowledge from this despite the confusion of trying to read it. I don't know. I liked it. I might have to read it again sometime and hopefully maybe understand it better.